Story 1. At least in the southern region, there are large, intimidating, and financially burdensome weddings. Such expensive events negatively affect everyone involved, including travelers, their accommodations, dry cleaning, and pet sitters. It is better to have more relaxed and affordable weddings. Story 2. Hustle culture. People are more important than money. However, assuming all else is equal, a person doing an honest day's work should earn enough to have access to a decent life. There should be no need for side jobs or multiple jobs. Story 3. Instant gratification. Not many people wait and save for things anymore. Instead, they buy on credit and ultimately end up paying far more in the long run. Story 4. Donating sick days to colleagues with long-term sickness is kind, but you should not have to do that. You seem to have terrible employment terms. Story 5. Work. People are too defined by their career. Working excessive hours is a point of pride. Productivity comes before everything else. It is not healthy. It is not human. Story 6. Doing what it takes to get ahead. On the surface, it seems fine, but then that whole ideal becomes twisted into taking advantage of others to get ahead, and then taking advantage of them even more to stay ahead. Story 7. Forget you, got mine. It reflects the American identity and is likely a significant reason for many problems in the United States. Story 8. Absurd and excessive consumerism like luxury brands, status symbols, and all those things that only serve to display social status. Story 9. Individualism and selfishness. The whole idea of pulled myself up by the bootstrap. I did this without help, and if it does not benefit me directly, then I do not support it. Our social programs and laws have been decimated on the grounds of selfishness. Hearing my tax dollars or, I do not use this, why should I pay for it, is like nails on a chalkboard. For all intents and purposes, everyone is linked in a giant web of society. We are all connected, and everything has a ripple effect. Story 10. The idolization of politicians. Caring about a politician as a person instead of their policies. Story 11. Alcohol and drinking culture. Yes, I partied when I was young, and I believe many people did as well. Looking back, I realize it did not help and was, in many ways, destructive. Story 12. So many Americans value that lowbrow, badass vibe. Bring back the values of integrity, education, intellectualism, ethics, civics, and stewardship. The whole badass thing is another form of fragility. Story 13. Refusal to accept death as a natural end of life. Adopting as she is a fighter, cancer battle. We believe in miracles stance when it comes to illness and death is completely unfair to the sick person and culturally toxic. Story 14. Individualism. We have become so individualistic that our communities have almost completely fallen apart. Millions of Americans are hostile to the idea that they need to get along with others. Going your own way is great when it means you do not let cultural norms shame you out of expressing yourself honestly and living your life the way you choose. It is terrible when it means you cannot do the basics needed to ride on a plane, go to the theater, or buy food at a restaurant without the police being called. Story 15. Hustle culture refers to working extremely hard all the time at one or more jobs. Your job will replace you tomorrow if you stop working today. Story 16. Tipping. I am one of the southern neighbors, and with so many Americans coming here, every place has started to add 15 to 20% tips. One waiter even had the nerve to tell me that they prefer tips in dollars. Story 17. Unnatural beauty includes layers of makeup, false eyelashes, tattooed makeup, fillers, botulinum toxin treatments, surgeries, and photo editing to achieve perfection. Story 18. Driving giant trucks because I need to haul plywood from Home Depot. Does this once. Rolls coal. Is an idiot. Story 19. Moving out and being independent as soon as possible. The views on this are slowly changing, but more often than not, I still see it mentioned as a point of pride. Story 20. We glorify lofty ideals like freedom and democracy so much that we have completely forgotten what these words actually mean. Our understanding of government, politics, and philosophy has become a pseudo-religion, with all the zealotry and foolishness that accompany it. Story 21. Making employees, such as cashiers, stand for hours at a time is challenging. People and corporations often consider it lazy or unprofessional to sit. But standing for long periods can be very hard on the body. In many other countries, it is common for cashiers to sit while working. Story 22. Work ethic. While a good work ethic is positive, in the United States it has been taken to an extreme that blurs the line with exploitation. People are told it demonstrates good work ethic to take on duties beyond what was agreed upon without extra compensation, to use as little paid time off or sick leave as possible, to be effectively on call at all times, that overtime must be worked, and to work on Sundays and holidays. People forget that we work to live, not live to work. In places like Germany, most businesses close after 6 p.m. or on Sundays. In the United States, I have been called mid-vacation and asked to cut it short, constantly assigned unrelated work, told I must stay for mandatory overtime, and unofficially reprimanded for not answering my phone on my day off. Work ethic, always being on time and doing your job, is good, but exploitation and borderline slavery have been normalized under the guise of work ethic. Story 23. Being a workaholic seems like the way to live, and some people think you are lazy if you do not want to grind your life away. Story 24. I read that at the end of ancient Rome, pity and empathy were thought to be forms of mental illness. We are approaching that perspective in the United States. Today, I read about people mocking those who want tax dollars to provide free lunches to school children. Many children live in poverty or with abusive parents, but no one cares, they are on their own. This is a sign of difficult times ahead. Story 25. Ruthlessness. Being at the top is more important than how you get there. It does not matter how many people you destroy or who you step on to climb the ladder. Story 26. Thinking being single is the worst thing in the world. Always trying to find the one or, in general, never being single. Story 27. The Pledge of Allegiance, especially having children say it in school daily, is controversial. Some people strongly oppose the Bellamy salute associated with it. Story 28. Loud cars and motorcycles. Apparently, there is an entire demographic of adult men who never develop psychologically beyond the age of 10. Story 29. The two-party system in politics creates the illusion of choice, although there are variations on a small scale. Story 30. Having a collection of assault weapons and posing with them in pictures. Bonus if there are at least a few young family members holding one. Story 31. Having to work over 40 hours to survive is challenging. Hustle culture demands working 70 hours a week between your main workplace and ride-sharing services, which is not something to be proud of. You are being exploited and robbed of your free time. Story 32. Everything the advertising industry has ever told us that we wanted or needed. Think about it, it is a lot more than most people realize. Story 33. Employees working 12-hour shifts alone for multi-billion-dollar companies that make millions in profit every year. Story 34. Work. Hustle culture means not taking any days off. Billionaires in general embrace this mindset. I work so I can live life. I don't live just to go to work. Story 35. Punishment. We are obsessed with it. So much so that we happily sacrifice many basic liberties just to make sure the bad people receive their punishments. The idea of actual rehabilitation is seen as not enough punishment. Story 36. Not getting enough sleep. Scientists are now pretty sure everyone needs 7 to 8 hours, and only a few people fall outside that range. We cannot possibly have as many who can live on 5 hours a night as they think they can. Choosing to sleep less than your brain and body need is a very bad choice indeed. Story 37. The way workers are treated. Call out sick, you get verbally abused by your supervisor. This has happened to me. No sitting or leaning. Period. Let your knees and legs become bad by the time you are 30. Want children? Well, you have to get back to work before the child is even 6 months old. Tough luck finding care. It is so toxic and frustrating. People are animals, not machines. Even machines wear down with time, honestly. Story 38. Loyalty to employers. Your job is not your second home. Your employer is not your family. You should not sacrifice unpaid time, your peace of mind, or your ethics for a job. Employers need employees as much as employees need them. Stop giving your employer unearned respect and admiration they do not deserve, especially when they show you none and exploit your labor. Story 39. Pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Collaboration and unity are how the country was formed, but now these strengths are discouraged. Story 40. Basically every aspect of American culture. I have a special hatred of work and professional culture. I hate that so much is obfuscated under layers of business talk. Everything is superficial, and you constantly have to walk on eggshells around all of your higher-ups because you never know when they want to exert power and ruin your life permanently for their amusement. I hate that you can never directly tell people what you are thinking in a work setting. You are often stuck with some of the most wildly incompetent people you will ever meet, and you have to pretend their work is the same quality as yours and that you are both equally valuable to the company, which is not true. Nobody in any position is on your side, but you are expected to bend over backwards and sacrifice everything in your life for them. Working in an office setting can be deeply soul-crushing, and pulling up the ladder behind you is expected for those who advance. Story 41. The normalization of punishing someone for calling in sick to work is concerning. I would rather people stay home when they are sick than bring their illness to me. Additionally, having to prioritize work over family is really troubling. Story 42. Individualism. When people prioritize their own desires, success, or identity above all else, including community, relationships, or shared responsibilities, the results can be harmful to society as a whole. Story 43. Power, prestige, status. You cannot take any of these with you when you die. The pursuit of these things is endless, and you will never have enough. Story 44. Hours worked. There are only one or two other cultures that care as much as we do, with Japan being the primary example. Recently, I saw someone bragging about working 70 hours a week while their employer did not pay overtime. That is not something to boast about. You are exhausting yourself for someone who does not care. My first real boss would always tell me to leave his office as soon as the clock struck 5. When I asked why, he said his boss expected him to stay late, and he never wanted to be the person keeping us from our lives and families. I try and would like to believe I do the same for the employees who report to me today. Story 45. Becoming wealthy and well-known. If you really think about it, being extremely wealthy and well-known must be the most stressful job ever, both achieving it and maintaining it. Story 46. Remember when celebrities were taking pictures of themselves topless and calling it empowering? Now we have OnlyFans. Story 47. Rugged individualism is literally the opposite of society. Humans have been cooperating for the betterment of the whole for millennia. Story 48. Guns and violent revenge are not solutions to mental health problems. Hollywood has continued to glorify these ideas even in today's serious times of gun violence. Additionally, pickup trucks, sport utility vehicles, and the excessive car culture contribute to these issues. Story 49. Hyperindependence is the belief that you should be able to do everything by yourself, that you do not owe anything to others around you, and it diminishes the importance of community both in helping others and allowing others to help you. Some independence is good, but taken to an extreme, it is not beneficial for anyone. Story 50. Rugged individualism. Humans have come this far by working together and supporting one another. We need to do away with this bootstraps nonsense and start investing in our communities. Story 51. Cars and car-centric life. Toxic fumes from engines, debris from tires and brakes, and fluids leaking everywhere contribute to pollution. Additionally, the vast amount of concrete and pollution associated with cars negatively affects the health of people nearby. After removing lead from gasoline, the population became less violent. There is also a lack of general physical activity. 10,000 steps is roughly 2 hours of walking. How often do doctors complain about people not being active enough? Compare those 2 hours of walking to the length of your daily commute. Fewer cars and less parking mean everything is closer together, allowing you to walk to more places. This also reduces the portion of your income spent on transportation. Story 52. Tribalism. We have segregated ourselves into smaller groups. Everyone seems focused on fitting themselves and others into boxes defined by ethnicity, sexuality, mental state, and so on. As a result, we are very divided now. Story 53. A strong history of, I do not like something, so I get to kill it or at least treat it terribly mentality. I think it is what drives the murder rate so high. Story 54. Freedom. The United States of America does not have it, but it is praised and glorified. Tying health insurance to employment, having very little leave, having many debt traps set everywhere by the government and corporations, having gerrymanders everywhere, having partisan justices and officials rather than independent bodies. It goes on. The United States is a prison with glass walls. Story 55. Pay-to-play political system. Buying politicians happens at every level of government and is completely legal. Story 56. Being intelligent at a young age often leads to being bullied and socially excluded. As an adult, intelligence can still result in social exclusion and difficulties in employment, such as being fired or not hired. I have frequently been told that I would get bored too quickly, which was used as an excuse, even though I simply wanted a job to earn money for basic living expenses. Story 57. Rugged individualism means not asking for help when you need it because that implies weakness. It also means not helping others, especially strangers, because they can find solutions on their own. Story 58. Competition is good, fun, and aids productivity. But we Americans take it too far. I have seen two grown men passing each other in a hallway turn farting into a competition. I have seen executives commit horrible crimes in the name of competition. It was not even necessary for them to win. I have seen projects destroyed by infighting. I have been to the scene of accidents where people are bleeding while two men are in a shouting match over who should be in charge of the crisis. Companies defraud tens of thousands to outcompete their rivals. We do many unethical things just to be competitive. Story 59. Hustle culture just to survive. I am sorry if you are having to work more than 80 hours a week just to survive. The system is unfair. Story 60. My comment may not be as deep as some of yours, but garbage disposals are not common in most other countries. They contribute to pollution in our water supply. I recently learned that many countries avoid using them for this reason. We are all spoiled. Story 61. Car culture produces large amounts of greenhouse gases, releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere from tailpipes and contributing to global warming. Story 62. Killing yourself for your job. Bragging about working 15 to 20-hour days for no overtime, never taking any time off, and dying as soon as you retire if you are lucky enough to retire. Here is a secret. Your job will never love you back. They will replace you before you are even in the ground. Story 63. Rugged individualism. For over 100,000 years, people have developed society. We are better off and more successful when we help each other, rely on each other's strengths, and cover each other's weaknesses. I read about people going bankrupt from medical debt or student loan debt because they say, "Why should I have to help you?" It baffles me. Story 64. High school and college athletics. It is extremely toxic that about 10% of high school students want to become professional athletes, and a greater percentage push themselves to play 3 seasons. Just play these games for fun as clubs in college and high school. Story 65. Rugged individualism. We are social creatures and support community, asking for help, and giving help are all solid benefits. Story 66. Hard work. And by that I mean working 3 underpaid jobs just to afford basic necessities. There is a certain pride working class people feel from struggling and not becoming homeless, especially in rural communities where they view any kind of assistance as handouts because it hurts their pride. Story 67. Working 60 to 70 hours a week. My finance and lawyer brothers are always bragging. I just nod my head and smile while judging them. Story 68. Individualism. Nuclear families separated from other relatives and elders. Pick yourself up by the bootstraps mentality. People conditioned to believe they do not deserve healthcare or education, and that working hard for billionaires is acceptable. Story 69. Paying an arm and a leg for education. Making the masses uneducated to the point they are surprised by policies they vote for. This applies to all voting, local, state, and country. Due to a lack of good education, literacy, and understanding of instructions, techniques, and teachings have become difficult for many. Reading and writing skills in the States have declined in recent years. America needs better and more affordable education, as well as more jobs that do not require education beyond high school and that pay a living wage. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.